This is the James Show on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and I am so happy for the first time in 10 days. I get to give you good news on the flooding recovery in the Texas Hill Country. Now, it's not good as in yay, but it's good as in it stopped getting worse. How about that? And that's how bad this has been. The original reporting on it, I remember when it happened, it happened very early in the overnight on Friday morning of last week, on July 4th. And so I didn't really talk about it hardly at all that first day. I didn't realize the magnitude of it. There were just scant reports coming in. And I remember the body count just floored me. I was like, 24 dead from a flash flood? That never happens. Wow. Well, it just kept climbing. And I felt awful because every day I had to come in here and tell you that the number of our neighbors that we lost in this flood went up. And I was also super concerned about the number of missing. Because just as recently as yesterday, the last number I had before I started the James Show for the Monday edition, they were still expecting over 170 missing. Well, I'm glad to tell you, for the first day that I come in, the number went up for the death toll just a little bit. 132 are now dead. But here's the positive news. 101 missing statewide. Now, that's way too many. That's still scary as hell, but it is way better than 170. Because worst case scenario, just when we were talking about this yesterday, is the number where we were approaching 130 dead yesterday. The scary part was that number could double if all of these people who are missing aren't really missing. Now, I didn't get any description or explanation from the state on how the official number for missing went down by about 70 in the course of a day. I don't know. Were they all found? Were they not really missing in the first place? Was there some duplicate numbers? Was there a rounding error? I don't know. Don't care. I'm just glad it's not 170 anymore. 101 missing sounds a whole lot better. Now, that's a statewide number. 97 in the Kerrville area in Kerr County. So that's a significant drop. And I'm not ready to applaud the situation yet. Still a huge tragedy. Still the worst tragedy from a natural disaster that I've seen in Texas in my lifetime, I guess. But we still have, look, if you want to take the positive angle, just remember 12,000 volunteers showed up. That's in addition to all the, first responders and the National Guard and the cops and the firefighters and the paramedics and the people whose job it is. 12,000 fellow Texans took time out of their work life, took their own resources, put their own selves at risk to go down there and help. So there are still some bright spots to be had. It's just a terrible situation. 132 dead. Still heartbreaking. But I am so glad I get to finally come in and tell you, because I've been griping about this all week. Can't wait for the day to where I come in and things are actually getting better instead of worse. So good. We've crossed that. And I wanted to start with that because this happened a week ago, or a week and a half ago, I should say. And naturally, the national news isn't hardly mentioning it at all. Now, you and I, we're in Texas. We're in the middle of it. We're still recovering people and bodies and adjusting numbers, and we're still in the middle of it. The rest of the nation has kind of moved on. And, you can't really blame them. It's not happening in their backyard like it's happening in our backyard. We all either know someone that was affected by it or know someone who knows someone who was affected by it. And you just can't expect the news to stay on a story like this for 2 weeks. I mean, that just doesn't happen for hardly anything. And there's other things that have gone on since that happened to sort of knock it out. And really, there's no new pictures. There's no new events. There's nothing really new to report. Yeah, we're just digging out homes and people and animals and trying to clean up and recover. And so, I mean, there's some other nuancy things that are going on that I don't think the rest of the world cares about. They're thinking about lowering the water level of a nearby lake to see if that'll help with finding some of the missing people, which, wow, absolutely heartbreaking there. But I'm so happy to tell you we are down to just 101 people remain missing according to the state. And today is the first day. Here it is. This happened on the wee hours of July 4th. It took until July 15th that this story stopped getting worse. And man, I just every one of those people that's lost, though, the 132 dead. I'm not forgetting you. I don't think the people that listen to WBAP are going to forget you. And all the other people that are suffering, all the families that are going to have an empty chair at Thanksgiving. Still terrible stuff. Still just unspeakable tragedy. And our hearts go out with you. And really, now, it's not just the families. It's the first responders. They're down there. I talked about this yesterday. They're down there. And how would you like it for your job today instead of doing what you're doing? What do? You work at a law firm. You work at a doctor's clinic of some sort. You work at a radio station. You work at a school. You work at the post office. Where do you work? Are you digging up dead children today out of the mud? No? Well, then count your blessings. Because some people have a terrible job, but it's got to be done. And they're doing the ugly, hard work down there still. So don't let it fall out of your heart just yet. We are not done with this. Coming up next, though, I wanted to start by focusing on Texas. Now we're going to focus on the outside world because Trump doesn't seem to be getting along with Putin so well anymore. Well, what happened? Are things about to escalate over there? You'll find out next from Dr. Jeffrey Broder from Rigaku next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. This is News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. If you go to blueribbondfw.com, you're a homeowner, you're trying to find somebody you can trust to get on top of your house and take care of your most precious asset. It'll make you feel better if you go to the website and you look at some of the 5-star reviews. They have hundreds of them through Google. Let me read you a couple here. Ian writes in, he says, Neely is amazing at what she does. She keeps everything organized, communicates, and listens to the needs. Always helpful, friendly, and on top of things. You all are lucky to have her. See, so it's not just John, Tish, and Trevor, the family behind it. They've got a staff that has been with them for years. And when I say this is a family operation, it goes deeper than you think. When John came and got on my roof and I got the free roof inspection like I tell you to get, the only problem we had was like a rotting board in my gables. And he's like, listen, we have a guy that'll do the woodwork to take care of that. I'm like, does he work for you? He's like, no, but his daughter does. And so like some of these people that they work with, the daughter works with them, filing insurance paperwork or whatever. So not only did they have like an internal family network going, but they have such a strong relationship with the other contractors that they work with that will be on your house that you can trust them as well. Here's another great 5-star review from Google. This one's from Cody. This is a simple, short one. Great customer service and great craftsmanship. 100% satisfied. What else could you ask for when you're getting a new roof on your house? You want a nice roof? You want nice customer service? You may need some help with your insurance paperwork? They'll help you with all that. Go to blueribbondfw.com, blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. My next guest, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur, coming back on from Rigaku. He's a regular guy we lean on for these foreign affairs situations. He has quite a list of credentials behind himself. He's a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear consultant at Rigaku. Welcome back, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur. I'm going to pick your brain here because there was thank you very much. The press asked Trump some questions about the situation with Russia yesterday. And I guess him and Putin aren't getting along too well lately. Let me ask you, can you fill in the blanks here? I don't know if I just missed it when he said it, but I couldn't figure out who Trump is talking about. He says there's a country that has a bunch of our Patriot missiles that they're going to be giving to Ukraine. And I mean, maybe we'll be reimbursed by NATO. But here was the clip from yesterday that I'm asking you about, Dr. Jeff.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work a deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war side.
So who has 17 of our Patriot missiles they're about to hand over to Ukraine? Do we know? Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of foreign aid I prefer. I don't like the fact that we got to give out weapons to everyone who needs them. How about you buy our weapons so, we don't have to have a negative impact on the taxpayer and the citizens of America? We're talking with Dr. Jeffrey Broder from Rigaku about the situation with Russia. Trump says he's going to do some secondary tariffs if Russia doesn't get their head out of their backside. But we already have a ton of sanctions and tariffs and other, sort of diplomatic incentives going on. Would that help any? Yeah, and you'd mentioned Iran earlier. That's kind of a point that should be brought up a little more. We did that big bombing a little over a month ago, and we were told World War III is right around the corner, and this is going to escalate things, and your sons are going to be drafted into war. Hadn't heard a peep out of him, Dr. Jeff. All right, Dr. Jeffrey Broder from Rigaku. I appreciate your insights on the foreign policy discussion today. Thank you, sir. All right, coming up next, we're going to get back to the local front here because we now have the trial date set for Karmelo Anthony, from the track meet stabbing in Frisco. And it looks like it's going to be a summer of love, or for some people, a summer of riots leading up to the midterms. That's my prediction. I'll explain coming up next. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Let me tell you some ugly truths here. As a fellow North Texan, I do not delight in the headline that the Karmelo Anthony trial has been set. Karmelo Anthony is the guy that's on trial for the fatal stabbing of the kid at the Frisco track meet, and it's set for June 1st, 2026. Now, I don't think they planned this as some sort of master plan where, hey, why don't you go stab this kid about a year and a half before the midterms so we can set up a perfect scenario for race riots. But I do think that when a big election's coming up, we've seen a pretty specific pattern that keeps emerging here where, hey, it's time to riot. What story that's already out there can we get our base ginned up about? What can we use to get them so inflamed and so angry that they need to chuck a brick through a window and go get some new Air Force Ones? By the way, old white people, Air Force Ones is a brand of sneakers. Nelly wrote a song about it. Try and keep up. I feel like I said that and some people like my dad probably went, what do you mean? Like the plane that the president rides in? No, the shoe that Nelly sings about. Michael Jordan's. How about that? Sneakers. But look, the Summer of Love is most closely associated with the George Floyd's riots. But what I remember from right before that happened in an election year is they were trying to hype up the what was his name? Ahmaud Arbery shooting. That was the dude that on one side they said, we're building some houses in this neighborhood and someone keeps coming by and stealing material and we've caught him on game cameras. And so this guy that was matching the description was running away from one of our sites. And so we stopped him and he attacked us. And so we shot him. And those guys actually ended up going to jail. Why? Because they brought a weapon to a neutral place and they exchanged harsh words with some guy. And apparently the jury thought that they used fatal force a little too quickly. It sounds a lot like the Karmelo Anthony trial, doesn't it? Some guy brought a weapon where it clearly doesn't belong, instigated a physical altercation. And I'm using very vague language here for a reason, so it'll fit both scenarios. And the guy with the weapon initiated fatal force where it just didn't seem to belong. So yeah, it's almost the same thing. The reason why they switched off the Arbery case and moved to George Floyd is because it wasn't divisive enough. That's the key. It doesn't just have to be a black person who is the victim of a white guy, or whether or not you think a victim who's on the receiving end of violence from a white guy. Whether it's Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery, it can't be something that we all agree on because that's not divisive. And they don't want to hype that up. They don't want to hype up the stories because there are some where you and I would agree. Ahmaud Arbery was one of them where most people agreed that was a bad shot. There's the one that happened in, was that Pensacola? It was the Robert Fortson is his name. It fell out of the news because it didn't quite fit the narrative. Yes, there was a white cop who shot a black man who was doing nothing wrong, totally innocent, and it was a bad shot. Why isn't that hyped up? Well, because you and I, we have the body cam footage and we would agree, yeah, that's a bad shot. Well, Democrats can't have people seeing MAGA people and white people and people who are usually associated as their political adversaries taking the side of a black guy over a white guy, because then they would think, oh, well, these people aren't motivated by race. They just call balls and strikes. And so in these other situations, maybe we shouldn't dismiss their opinion on a Michael Brown or a George Floyd or a Trayvon Martin as simply racist, because they're proving that they're not simply racist when they go against the white guy in these other situations where it's a little more cut and dry. They can't have them seeing that. They have to make their voters think that you're a closet Klansman. This is Mississippi burning 1949 or whenever that was. So Karmelo Anthony fits the bill. Perfect. It's one where Karmelo Anthony clearly in the wrong, but there seems to be a racial line that is drawn where the tribal nature takes over and the blacktivists, I'm not saying all black people, just the ones that make this part of their identity and their activism, the Dominic Alexanders of the world, got the first phone call from the family. that turned it in to the next predicate for a summer of riots right there. So here's what a lot of people are predicting. Karmelo Anthony's going to have a trial in June of next year. It's not going to last that long. He's going to be convicted, and then there's going to be race riots. And the timing's going to be perfect, impeccable, because there is a midterm election next November. And that is the one prize that Team Blue is salivating at. How can we get our band of miscreants to go out and riot? And not just riot, be angry, be as mad as possible going into the midterm elections. This is it. This is perfect for that mindset. It's perfect for the mindset of the media who goes out there and they're like, hey, man, we have our worldview that's already established that white people are evil and black people are being oppressed. They're victims of white oppression. But, you know, if you go out there and you just report the news in a sterile, non-biased manner, no one will come away with that conclusion. Look at all the crime that happens in like downtown Fort Worth has 1/5 the crime as downtown Dallas. Now, what proportion, what ratio of that violence do you think is white on black versus black on white? Which one do you think is bigger? Right. So there's such a shortage of actual stories that fit the narrative. You would think they would change their worldview, but instead they just focus on that tiny, almost exception to the rule level of stories. Now, let me read how this is playing out. I'm kind of running out of time. When we come back, I'm going to read some comments on a couple of articles about this and not let you know what the media is saying, not letting you know what the talking heads are saying, but the commenters under it, that's what your neighbors are saying. That might be what you're saying. That might be what your Team Blue sister-in-law says, or your daughter that's in college right now. She may disagree with you. But you're going to hear from both sides on this, and I think we're going to spell out pretty clearly that we are headed for another summer of riots after Karmelo Anthony gets convicted next year, now that we have the trial date set for June 1st, 2026. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And about a year from now, you're going to hear me do shows over the Karmelo Anthony trial because it is slated to begin June 1st, 2025. A lot of people think that's suspicious because, hey, you're right. Thank you for the correction. 2026. I misspoke there. And a lot of people online are saying, wait, hang on a second. This isn't a quick and speedy trial. This is a deliberate scheduling to line up with the midterms because it's going to fit the political agenda, and they will now have the predicate, the excuse, the emotional train wreck to convince the slow-witted people in their fan base to riot. Hey, maybe it'll work. But it does seem to be kind of in line with how long these things take. You have seen when someone gets arrested for murder, they get a trial that starts in like 6 to 8 months, but I don't think that's the norm. Usually it does take about a year or so. And when did this happen? Back in, I guess, April, if I remember correctly. So maybe this is a coincidence. Maybe they didn't deliberately schedule it with the midterms in mind. However, I do foresee that they will take advantage of this interesting timing and see if they can get some riots to happen. Now, I'm not even sure if riots will work. At some point, the American people are going to get so sick of riots that they're going to have to stop doing them because it's not going to help in the court of public opinion. You can only burn down so many businesses and ruin so many lives before people realize that you're the bad guy. 800-288-9227 for your theory. Let me read you some of the ones that were in some of the comments I was reading in the article on X. Real Dill Mogilla says, I doubt it's planned. It's about the right amount of time it takes to get resolving a case like this, and I doubt this dude has that much support for there to be riots. Hard to take a guy's side that's so obviously wrong. Yeah, but isn't that what we said about Trayvon? Isn't that what we said about Michael Brown? Look, there's a little gray area in the George Floyd. I get it. But Trayvon? Michael Brown charging a cop? He gets shot? It wasn't a hands up, don't shoot. That was the lie that witnesses made up to try and exonerate the guy that has the same skin tone as they do. God, that's evil. But Destin Winters over here on X says, they took Floyd and made him a folk hero, complete with statues and murals. This young man set out to harm or kill someone that day, and it hurts my heart that the Metcalves have to endure Austin's loss. But any amount of support for the evil he has committed without remorse of any kind. Oh, it's coming. We see they'll support evil. We see them right now supporting illegal immigrant criminals over the victims of their crimes, supporting the Palestinian terrorists of Hamas over the kids that were just trying to go to a music festival on October 7th. Oh, no. Don't put it beyond some of these people to overlook evil in the pursuit of a political gain. Another commenter, not me, not you, says, if there is a black on the jury, this is not my words, people, I don't talk like this. If there is a black on the jury, he will be exonerated no matter how obviously guilty he is. Blacks do not convict their own, especially when the victim is white. See, now that's too far. We have seen it happen. That you may say they're less likely to convict their own, or they have a harder time convicting their own, but don't just write it off. This is what happens when race gets thrown into it. People get emotional. Logic takes a back seat, and you get just awful takes like that. That person there says, good, riots will help Republicans. Now, that's an interesting take. Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to set up. They're going to do riots, but it's not going to work this time. I don't know. It seems to work in times past. I guess there could be a shelf life on the effectiveness of riots, efficacy of riots. I don't know if we're there yet. 800-288-9227. What about John in Dallas? You're on WBAP.
Good afternoon. I actually am in law enforcement, and I do investigations for the state, and I have submitted multiple cases to Collin County DA for prosecution, and I know some of the DAs up there. And I'll say this honestly, that putting this race thing in mind is the furthest thing from the truth. First off, this guy is out on bond, so there's no rush that he's locked up and he can't get out, and we're keeping him locked up. Secondly, if the defense wants to let this go out so they have plenty of time to prepare for the case, and both sides are like, fine, do it, then that way there's no excuse that they were rushed or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So being in law enforcement, and I know a lot of the DAs up there, there's no way that they'd be putting this race riot thing in their mind when setting this court date. They want to have these DAs, if the defense says, hey, we want a lot of time to prepare.
Right, but John, I think the race riots aren't going to come from the DAs or whatever, but not the Carmelo Anthony's, the Dominic Alexanders and the Al Sharptons and the other race hustlers in the world will take advantage of this convenient timing for their purposes. I'm not putting this on the DA at all.
Because they're the ones that set it. They're the ones that set the trial. The DAs, the defense, and the judge set the trial date. And so these people saying, oh, it's conspiracy so we can riot next summer? No,
I think most people are saying that they didn't do this on purpose, but this is going to be exploited because the timing is so convenient.
It could be, but saying it's conspiracy that they set it for this time so they could be riots? No.
No, I think most people agree with you. I agree with you on that one, John. I don't think the DA did it on purpose. I just foresee that there are going to be riots because this guy is going to be found guilty. This is my prediction. I don't know. Don't have a crystal ball. But I think he is, and I think this sets up a great platform for the rioters in our midst.
What if he's acquitted then? That's the other question.
Well, then there definitely won't be riots.
Yeah. I mean, but, yeah, I just – the timing of this about rioting. Could there be riots after the fact if he's found guilty? And there's a good chance he is. There could be some riots.
Well, if he's acquitted, there's not going to be any riots because we don't riot on the right side. We don't throw bricks through windows. That's not how we get free things from, I don't know, what would we riot? Bass Pro Shop, the tanning salon. All right, coming up next on the James Show, if you have any Carmelo Anthony theories, 800-288-9227. But Donald Trump was asked about the Epstein files yesterday again. And I think his response kind of swings that story in the other direction. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, enjoy your downtown while it lasts. You may lose it to riots next summer after Karmelo Anthony gets the justice it appears he deserves and is found guilty in his murder trial of Austin Metcalf. The trial date was set for June 2026, June 1st. Cheapers. So give it a month or so, maybe a couple months, 2 months to have the trial, and then there's going to be the verdict where it looks like if there's any justice, he'll be found guilty. I don't know. I don't know all the details of the case, but it looks bad for him. That'll be just in time for rioting season, isn't it? It's duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season. No, it's rioting season. I'm not saying the DA did it on purpose. What I am saying is this is the situation. These are the kind of cases and timing that gets exploited for political purposes. And look, I shouldn't use the term so general. It's just something Team Blue does. Never does Team Red get upset, go loot a Foot Locker. It just doesn't happen. So I would not be surprised if it happened. I think if you had to say, James, you're going to put your chips on yes or no, I think I would put them on yes. Because I don't see how this guy goes through a court process without being found guilty. And we just have too much of a recent pattern of these cases like this, whether it's a Trayvon or a Michael Brown or a George Floyd. Is Karmelo Anthony going to be the next one? I think so. 800-288-9227. This is Ron in Stephenville on WBAP.
Hey, James.
Hey, Ron.
They need to have him convicted.
Yeah, they kind of do. Because if he gets off, then
they can't show craziness.
Exactly. Yeah. We're on the same board. Isn't that a weird place to be in? The guy that's supposed to be their hero, they're behind closed doors going, please go to jail. Please go to jail. Please be guilty. Please be guilty.
Oh, they can manipulate the whole thing to try to make sure that he is guilty. That he gets convicted of it. They'll do whatever they can to jury rig and everything else to make sure that he's found guilty so that they can sow chaos.
Well, there's also, I read from the commenter on Twitter, I don't know if this is necessarily true, but he says if there's black people on the jury, there's no way he'll be found guilty because they're sort of the tribal allegiance. I don't know if I'll go that far, but there's a lot of people saying that, so I don't necessarily completely disregard it.
Yeah, the BLMs, all of them, the Antifas, everybody that wants to riot, the ones that are in charge of them, they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that he's found guilty so that they can sow chaos.
I don't think they have to do much but watch the tape and he'll be found guilty, but totally agree. Ron in Stephenville, great call. This is George in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP.
Yeah, so what I have to say, I think they will get the right that will find, make it a hung jury or find him innocent in some way, some possible way. I see what they did on, the GoFundMe. 90% of the people there, maybe even more than that, they're saying that he's totally innocent, that all he was doing was defending his kind and defending injustices to black people for centuries. So I think that they're going to get the right black jurors to find him innocent.
Well, see,
that's all I have to say.
Then they won't have to riot.
Well, you know what? We're getting this fatigue, from rioters. I'm sure they're all different colors, but we know, from the civil rights era. I grew up during the civil rights era, and I know who the rioters were. And, we're sick of it. The people are sick of it. That's why we saw the backlash in the 2024 election.
Now, that's an interesting thought, too. Like, it has the rioting run its course because it goes in cycles. They rioted in the 60s, the Watts riot and whatever. Then there wasn't rioting again for a good while until I think Rodney King could be the ground zero for the next wave of rioting. And then now we have this one with the Trayvons and Michael Brown and Freddie Gray and Eric Garner and now George Floyd of the world. I feel you on that one. Also, has anyone else been online and seen the social media rumors that the dad may have used a racial slur in some connotation? Because all it takes is just a little bit of a reminder about the racial aspect of this, and some people just get so worked up at any hint of racism that the facts take a back seat.
Correct. I believe you're right. And this basically was a cold-blooded, calculated first-degree murder.
Yeah.
Unequivocally.
Well, I see that. You see that. We'll find out if the jury sees that, and then we'll find out if there'll be riots afterwards. Coming up next on The James Show, my friend David Hamilton. He's a foreign policy guy from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. More talk on Trump's enforcement of Russian tariffs, and we're handing off some more Patriot missiles and whatnot. Needless to say, Trump and Putin don't seem to be getting along so much anymore. What happened there? Will this escalate? Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Thank you very much for joining me on the big show. So, out of the top stories today, I really feel bad that I can't spend more time on the flooding. I just want to touch on the new news because there's really nothing else new except for the first time that this is the first day since it happened that I can come in here and tell you things aren't as bad as they seemed yesterday. Now, the death toll went up just a tick, and every death is a tragedy and every life matters. But it's up to 132 dead. Here's where the good news is. When I started off this week, it was 160 people missing. It theorized up to about 170 yesterday at some point, and then I come back in today and doing some research before the beginning of the show. It's down to 101 missing statewide. So I don't know if they found 70 people or whatever happened, but this is the first time the numbers have gone down. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Even though I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, I figured that's information you would want to know. All right, my next guest is a regular. His name's David Hamilton. He's with the National Security Economic Center at UNT. Welcome back to the James Show. Now, he does a lot of heavy lifting on these foreign affairs stories. He does a good job keeping an eye on what goes on outside of these borders. And it sounds like Donald Trump and Putin, their friendship has cooled a little bit. Let me play a little soundbite where Trump talks about this phone call that he had with Putin. He gets off the phone. A few minutes later, Putin fires missiles, and Trump's kind of surprised by that. So the duplicity. So, David Hamilton, I guess we can't trust Putin these days. Yeah, well, we're not shocked, but we kind of were hoping the incentives would align to where it would at least match the rhetoric that's coming out of Russia. And I see Trump acting like a businessman. You never negotiate with someone who perceives you as an adversary, so you always act friendly while negotiations are going on. Xi Jinping and I, I don't like the way he runs his country, but he and I, we have a good personal relationship. Me and Putin have a good personal relationship. Me and fill in the blank have a good personal relationship. So that's what he's going to say about everyone he's in negotiations with. But that's not necessarily the truth. And I think we're finally admitting that here in Russia, that Well, how do we do that besides militarily? Because Donald Trump says, well, we're going to do some secondary sanctions starting in August if Putin doesn't start acting right. But sanctions don't seem to have been working thus far. All right, we're talking with David Hamilton from the National Security and Economic Center at UNT. Coming up next, I want to continue with you, David, and ask you about the other arenas that are going on outside of America that aren't really getting a whole lot of attention right now. Whatever happened with Israel, Gaza? Whatever happened with Iran? Whatever happened to everything besides Russia on the foreign policy front? David Hamilton continues next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. It's the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We're continuing with David Hamilton. He's our foreign affairs analyst from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. And let's zoom out from the whole Russia-Ukraine situation here. Because, David, there's some stories that we've talked about a lot that sort of fell out of the news. I haven't seen a report on the Israel-Gaza situation in weeks, David, and I work in the news media. Well, I'm adjacent to the news media. What's even going on there? Well, if we just treated a siege like a siege is supposed to be treated all throughout human history, this would have been over now. But when this first, started going down and we were being told that, well, we've got to send in humanitarian aid. We've got to send in medicine and food and blankets and all this other help to the Gazans in the siege. For me, I came on the radar. I was like, are we just prolonging the human suffering here? Do we want this to end, or do we just want this to continue indefinitely? And then here we are. Well, I'm kind of split on the Egypt situation because on one hand, hey, you buttheads, if you let the nice people out, then we can go in and carpet bomb Hamas and actually, solve the problem. On the other hand, Egypt, colluding with the people in the Palestinian territories, I'm using the air quotes there, that hasn't worked out too well for them in the past. So I don't know what's Egypt's reason for not letting the refugees go into across their border. It's kind of vague. The other arena I wanted to run back by you that no one's talking about again is this whole situation with Iran, because there was the bombing that just happened. I mean, it feels like a year ago because it totally dropped out of the news. Now, right after it happened, David, you and I were being told that this could start World War III. This is destabilizing the region. Expect a swift response or a harsh response, and none of that has happened. David Hamilton, you're at the National Security Economic Center at UNT. What are you guys up to these days? They love that. Yeah, they love that. Am I invited? All right. Will there be snacks? Yeah. Now I'm in. Yeah, that's a big name. Good job. All right. Well, thank you very much. This is David Hamilton. If you want to look up his outfit, it's called the National Security Economic Strategy Initiative. Isn't that the full name? Look forward to it. Thank you, David Hamilton. Coming up next, Michelle Schultz. She is an international trade law expert. And we're going to talk about all the tariffs that we're facing. Trump announced last Thursday 35% tariffs on some goods from Canada. We're threatening a new 100% tariffs on some Russia transactions. New tariffs are threatened against Europe because there's another deadline that's running out at the end of the month. Will it work? Will it happen? Will this affect your wallet? Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, also on 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Now, the news has been just packed as of late between the floodings and the Epstein files and all the other 28 wild things that are going on, the ICE raids and whatever. Something that's fallen out of the news is this talk on tariffs. However, tariffs didn't go away. I think the media and really American public at large just got a little exhausted talking about tariffs all the time. It's not a sexy topic. It's not something that's easily grasped. It's an intangible, but you are going to be affected by them. Michelle Schultz is back on the show. She's a founding managing partner of Schultz Trade Law. And look, they're still there. There are talks of more coming on the way. New tariffs against Canada, new tariffs against Russia. At the end of the month, there's a deadline for a whole series of countries. Some of them are European. Do you feel like the average person is being significantly affected by the tariffs yet, Michelle? Yeah, so most of the tariffs that got threatened and made news earlier this year got a pause. And so we do have a few trade deals, but not enough to avoid the pause coming back. How many countries? I mean, I'm sure you don't know off the top of your head, but don't we only have deals with a few countries and we're still facing new tariffs with a whole bunch of countries at the end of the month? I hear you on that one. This is Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law talking about international tariffs. Now, the big guys that we're worried about really is our neighbors to the north and south, Canada and Mexico. Canada is facing new tariffs. Are we getting along okay with Mexico? Did we ever get that resolved, or do we have to worry about that situation too? Well, it seems sort of counterintuitive that we still have all this hanging over our head, but the stock market doesn't seem to mind at all. They've been banging all-time highs lately. GDP growth is still expected to be positive for the second quarter. We should get that number, I think, next week or whatnot. How do you explain the fact that the markets don't seem to mind? What are you telling your clients that are dealing with this? You do trade law for a living during the week. What advice are you handing them? All right, this is Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. You know, I might have to talk to you at the end of the month if some of these new tariffs come down, but I hope we work it out and I don't have to talk to you again. As good of a guest as you are, Michelle. Thank you very much for being on the show. All right, there she is, Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. Billy Currington and Kip Moore are coming to the pavilion at Toyota Music Factory on August 1st. Special guest Marlon Fanaki. Get tickets and information now at livenation.com, or you can be listening to the WBAP morning show all week long. They're going to be giving away some tickets. You can have a chance to win if you listen to my buddies, Hal, Jay, Carla, Ernie on the morning show. And I think is everyone back from vacation this week, Monty and the whole crew? So listen to the WBAP morning show for a chance to win Billy Currington and Kip Moore tickets on August 1st. That show's right around the corner. Coming up on the James Show, you remember the illegal immigrant ICE raids that happened at the two big pot farms in California? What do you find out how many criminal illegal immigrants were arrested in those raids? Get the numbers next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Check out this news. Remember how last week there was like this big, atrocious ICE raid where these evil men were showing up in masks and they were just kidnapping good people, hardworking people, children even. Where's the follow-up on that? Because there was the 2 ICE raids on the pot farms in California last week, and it dropped out of the news, and that's too damn bad. Because we actually got the police reports that were all filled out and filed. And now, just like, man, one of the greatest things Rush Limbaugh taught us, was the drive-by nature of the media. You know, he called them the drive-by media. This is exactly what he's talking about. They swoop in, they do this emotional take, they try and tug at your heartstrings, you know, the human angle. Oh, can you believe that ICE is doing this? They're literally the Gestapo. They're Nazis. This is what the Nazis did. How do you support Orange Man bad? Well, why do you just drop this? If it's so damn important, why do you just drop it when we actually have some concrete information on what happened? This is why. Because their narrative would get blown to bits. Public opinion would go counter to the narrative if you knew the full story. So, yeah, following the Rush Limbaugh drive-by media pattern perfectly is this pot farm ICE raid. Because the numbers that came back from the pot farm ICE raid, look, before I even tell you, let me have you guess. How many criminals do you think were arrested? And I don't mean being here illegal. I mean, besides being here illegally, how many of these were actual criminals with a record? What do you think? It was like 5? Think it was a dozen? You think it was a big number, like 20? See if you can pick it up here. This is Fox News reporting yesterday. Any media outlet who went out there and gave you the cursory emotional take on the pot raids, but didn't circle back and tell you about the criminal element that the American society was absolved of from those raids is dishonest propaganda hacks. That's what they are. 361 people were picked up. These must have been some pretty big farms. That's a lot of employees for 2 farms. That's a lot of weed. I don't know if the Grammys are going to be able to go on after that, but
smoke weed every day.
But we got rapists, kidnappers, child molesters, burglars. Hit and run and DUI are bad as well. But that's who was taken out of these raids. And the American people would hold ICE in higher regard if they knew the truth about the raids. The American people would reject the narrative if it was more than, oh, look at these guys are just working hard. The Trump administration lied to you. They said they were just going to go after criminals. No, they didn't. They said they were going to focus on. That was going to be their primary. That was going to be their first goal. But they didn't say they were only going to arrest criminal illegals. They were only going to deport illegal immigrants who had committed heinous, violent crimes on top of their existing crimes of breaking our immigration laws. No one said that. No one believes that. But you keep being told that. You keep being told you didn't vote for this. This isn't what you want. You don't want regular old non-criminal illegal aliens being deported. And I think the answer for most of us is, yeah, actually we do. Here's Jessica Tarloff trying to do this whole, doesn't this feel like in the first Star Wars when Obi-Wan Kenobi pulls off to the stormtroopers, these aren't the droids you're looking for. These aren't the droids we're looking for. Yes, move along. Yeah, and he just waves his hand. And these people, look, those Jedi mind tricks don't work on those with strong minds. Only the weak-minded people are affected by this. So what kind of weak-minded stormtrooper do you have to be to believe Jessica Tarloff? No, we didn't vote for ICE raids at work sites. We didn't vote for ICE raids immigration courts when you damn well know we did. Here she is. Just oh, is it? Yeah, we did. I did. Whoop-de-doo. No, actually, I did vote for that. I am sick of being told that I don't really think things that I think, and I think you are too. Did you vote for this? Are you like regretting your vote because they're picking up illegals at Home Depot? Or have for your entire life, when you go to a Home Depot and see illegal immigrants hanging out in the parking lot waiting to jump in the back of a pickup, you're like, why doesn't somebody come pick these guys up? Because that's what I've been thinking. That's what you've been thinking. That's what your dad thinks. That's what your coworkers think. That's what most of us think, except for maybe probably Jessica Tarloff thinks that. She just wouldn't dare say it on TV. I'm tired of being told that I didn't vote for this. Yes, I did. Well, if you don't get it, then why are you trying to use this as an argument? This is all you got? This is your argument against the ICE raids? Oh, you didn't vote for this? Yeah, I did. Well, they haven't really committed any other crimes, and that's not what the people voted for. Yeah, it is actually. I don't know if you understand this, Jessica, and everyone else. We're not lying when we say we want illegal immigrants deported. Period. Point blank. End of story. I don't care if they committed extra crimes on top of that. I don't care if they're running around handing out food to the homeless. Get them out of here. And I'm okay with that. It's like we're being told, no one cares to see the Epstein list. No one's interested in that. Yes, we are. Yeah, I want to see it. No, it doesn't affect my life one whit either way. But I do want to see it. I would like to see justice. I do know that from the reports and the information that has been made public that dozens, if not hundreds, of ladies, some of whom were underage, were repeatedly raped by Jeffrey Epstein on the island, his Palm Beach house, the Manhattan house. Didn't he have that ranch in New Mexico? Yeah, I would like to see anyone who raped a child go to prison and be held accountable for it. I don't care if they're on Team Blue or Team Red. I don't care if they're a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care if they're the heads of some other state. I don't care if it's my favorite celebrity, my favorite musician. No, I do want them all to go to jail. Yes, that is what I voted for. I want to see the Epstein list. I want illegal immigrants deported. I don't care if they're at Home Depot. I don't care if they're at immigration court. I don't care if they're standing on the final stage of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Go pick them up, throw cuffs on them, get them out of here. Oh, well, who's going to pick your crops? We'll figure it out. Oh, no, so a head of lettuce is going to be 28 cents more. I think I'll adapt just fine. Thank you very much. Is this what you voted for? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I see you nodding your head over there. I see that. Well, we'll get your feedback on this. And also, the other big thing you're being told you're not interested in, the Epstein list. Donald Trump said something yesterday that kind of opens that door again. So this is pretty exciting times. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and I get this feeling when I have conversations with my friends and sometimes listeners, sometimes family members and acquaintances and neighbors and whatnot. And that's the idea that the news keeps trying to steer your thoughts. Like, you didn't vote for this. Did you vote? No, the American people don't want ICE raids and immigrants being picked up at immigration court. Yeah, we do. If they're illegal, we want them gone. Well, the American people didn't vote for them to be picked up at schools and hospitals. Yeah, actually, we did. I don't know if you understand, but if someone's an illegal immigrant, we want them deported. But the American people didn't vote for non-criminal illegal immigrants and that haven't committed any crimes above and beyond, immigration crimes. They don't want them deported. Yeah, we do. What is so hard to understand about we want them deported? I don't know if do they really think like we think like, do they think we think like that? Or are they trying to convince us that we think like that? Because it's not going to work on me. I'm cool with it. Most people I talk to are cool with it. So who are they talking to? Who are these Trump voters out there? Show me a Trump voter who's like, well, I didn't want all illegal immigrants deported, just the ones that rape children. Because I don't know anyone that said that. That's a honest to God Team Red supporter. I don't know. And they do that on the local level. I mean, they're doing that in a couple of stories on the local level. I mean, it's so bizarre. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in on that. But here we go again. Like there's a stupid train. God, I hate government trains. Government passenger trains. I hate them so much. I really do. It's such an embarrassing waste of money. And there's one that, they can't stop coming up with bad ideas here. There's a passenger train that goes between Norman, Oklahoma, just south of Oklahoma City, over there. OU country. Yeah, Boomer Sooner. Gotcha. And it goes to Fort Worth. Well, this is a train that passed into existence and is supposed to be supported, but its existing funding structure from you, the taxpayer, isn't covering the cost. They tell you it's important. They tell you this is a successful line. They tell you, look, man, this carried over 80,000 passengers last year. It's super important. It's vital to the economic interest of both regions. Well, why can't it support itself if it's so damn vital? Why do you need more taxpayer money if it's so vital? So the taxpayer money that was already allocated to it from one of these places that shouldn't even exist. What's it called? Like North Central Texas Council of Governments Regional Transportation Council. That's a thing. Yes, the word council's in there twice. Why? Government's stupid. That's why. But they're saying, well, look, they're shirking their responsibilities in the Heartland Flyer. That's what it's called, the Heartland Flyer passenger rail service. Stop it. So they petitioned the state legislature, and if they can't directly get your tax money through the North Central Texas Council of Governments Regional Transportation Council, then they asked the state of Texas to just take the money from you via Austin. But thank God the state legislature shut it down. So then they were scared. They were like, well, this vital lifeline is going to be left unfulfilled. Well, why don't you charge the people that are riding the train enough that it actually pays for itself? Oh, because then they wouldn't choose it? Oh, so if it's only vital if it's subsidized by me and Sean and Garrett and you, then it's not really a success now, is it? It sounds like a failure to me. It sounds like if you're running a $3.5 million deficit, that's not on the successful side of the ledger in my book. No worries. They're going to get the money from you anyway. Here's the bad news. I got this from DallasExpress.com. They're going to take it from your toll money. That's right. You don't have a choice. You're going to pay for it whether you like it or not. You're going to pay for it with your regular taxes. And if they can't go get it from your property taxes down in Austin, you're still going to pay for it through your tolls. So these tolls for cars where you're riding around on these streets going up this tollway to Plano, or you're going to go across to George Bush, or wherever you're getting dinged for tolls, which is all over the place now, they're not even going to take that money and use it for your roads, Mr. Car Passenger. They're going to take that money from you and put it on this train that you don't want, that you don't ride, that is a failing, embarrassing loser every single year. So $3.5 million. And that's just the start of it. They're taking money from people who are paying for it by taking a car to work and giving it and rewarding the train riders. Boy, if that isn't a special interest, if that isn't an exalted privilege, and if that's not what do they call it? You're being oppressed. You're being disenfranchised. Here you are. You're actually being disenfranchised here. They're taking money from car drivers, car riders, and giving it to people who ride the train. Man, that is such BS. That is nasty. It's ugly. It's dishonest. It's corrupt. And this whole idea that all we need is one more government-sponsored choo-choo train from here to there and things will be better. It is a money hole, and it's embarrassing, and it's a loser, and I absolutely hate it. I do. I know that's a strong word, but I do. I can't believe people fall for this stuff. How long have you seen all this stuff going on? You were told that it would make traffic better. Has traffic gotten better now that we've spent these billions and billions of dollars on trains? I want to say billions and billions of dollars. I don't mean cumulatively over the 40 years of DART's existence. I mean, that's what we spend on an annual basis is billions of dollars on this. No, all of these tracks need to be ripped up. All the trains need to be scrapped. And DART and the what's this goofy thing's name? The North Central Texas Council of Governments Regional Transportation Council. They all need to be fired and write a public apology letter to the taxpayers of the state of Texas because you've been absolutely robbed for this myth, this fantasy that we need passenger trains. Yeah, because that's all we need. We need a cheaper subsidized ride from Fort Worth to Norman. Yeah, we're on a rocket ship there. Do I have time for this? No, I got to take a break. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. The other thing here locally, downtown Dallas's crime rate outpaces Fort Worth by 5-1. I'll tell you my theories on why it's so different coming up next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, getting some fun feedback through the email. It's easy, james@wbap.com. And I'm just marveling at so many of the headlines. You're being told that you don't believe in things that you obviously believe in. And are they just pretending like you don't believe in it? Because like Tony from Watauga emailed in, he's like, rounding up illegals at Home Depot or schools or grocery stores or pot farms, etc., is exactly what I voted for. And he put exactly in all caps, so you know he means it. He says, I'm glad to see the left wailing and gnashing their teeth, and I don't mind paying a bit more for fruits and vegetables to be rid of the drain on the American economy and health and education systems. I agree the train is stupid. I don't use the toll roads very often, so I don't kick in on that boondoggle. That does explain why toll rates are rising. It also explains why toll rates will never go away. It's just a way to rob you. It's a way to rob you and take money from you on projects that you're clearly not using because you're on a toll road with your car, and give it to people who aren't on a toll road with their car, because that's where that money's supposed to go. Every pothole you hit on a toll road, I want you to think of these stupid trains. Because someone else, who is this? Casey Jones, that's not your real name, because he's writing about trains. I think it's a fake name. He says, James, the worthless commuter train that runs through Grapevine, North Richland Hills, is a ridiculous waste of money. Good. Look, are you sure? That's not what you voted for. He says, morning drive down Davis Boulevard is interrupted by a train that nobody rides. It backs up traffic for a half mile. Morons. Oh, man, I hear that. Listen, our studios are down here at the American Airlines Center, and we have the big train station that's right next to our studios on the other side of this building, and it's just empty trains all damn day. And look, during rush hour, there'll be like, I don't know, a baker's dozen people on like 5-car train. But for the most part, it's like the Truman Show. It's just empty trains pull up, the doors open, no one gets off, no one gets on. It waits a second, the doors close, zoom, 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 and then it goes off just like that. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And it still exists. They can't stop stealing from you, can they? This is George in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. I was just calling about the immigration you were talking about. And it's exactly what I voted for. The money that is spent in education, in, medicine and doctors and everything else that's not getting paid back for the citizen, all that money could go to our vets, could go to disabled people we have here.
Or how about this? We just cut taxes and we keep it our damn self. How about that?
Yeah.
The people that talk about saving money, you're not going to win me over by saying it could be spent on these other government programs. No, how about we just let me keep my damn money? Because, look, I am not a wealthy guy. I am not a high-income guy. But when you add up all the taxes you have, it comes at you from so many different angles. It's hard to get a beat on it. Because, for my income taxes, I itemize my deductions. I have some self-employment. I can write down. I can stay in that 12% bracket. I'm almost in the 20% bracket. That's a big jump there. But I'm still getting clocked with 13% Social Security tax. And some of you are saying, it's only 6.5%. Yeah, but the employer has to match that and pay it to the government on my behalf. So there's another 13%. So I'm at 25% just when I get my check. Then I have sales taxes. I have property taxes. I have all the goofy little taxes that are on my cell phone bill and my water bill. And these taxes come from everywhere. I pay I'm not saying I'm a poor person. I'm just solidly middle class. I pay over 30% of my income in taxes, and I'm not even a rich dude. So you people who are up in the 20% bracket, or God forbid in that 37% bracket, you're paying more than half your income in taxes. I don't know why everyone isn't biting, scratching, and clawing to repeal every stupid program like these trains or whatever else they can come up with, the global warming coloring book in Botswana. It just drives me nuts, and we're all paying for it. I don't understand why everyone isn't livid. Everyone, you cool with just 40% of your income being taken by the government and flushed down the toilet? I'm not. Anyway, you got me excited there, George. Thank you very much.
Everybody should be mad.
All right, this is Bradley in Colleyville. Garrett, you don't know how to spell Colleyville? You're on WBAP. Bradley?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great, Bradley. Go.
So, I don't know if y'all are aware about that train that runs between the airport and downtown Fort Worth. They actually had Mothers Against Drug Drivers trying to make sure that went into the Stockyard Station. and they decided to bypass it because the city of Fort Worth needed more revenue off of drunk drivers. Isn't that not amazing?
Oh no! So drunk driving is seen as a revenue vehicle by the powers that be. Because I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you here's a very unpopular opinion. Some people are going to hate me, but I hope more than half of you don't. I think the drunk driving laws as they stand now are absolutely absurd. No, I am not pro drunk driving. Yes, I am anti drunk driving. I discourage drunk people from driving, but 0.8% alcohol means you get pulled over and thrown in the clink, and it's going to cost you $20,000 in court fees and cost and fines and rehab and, I don't know, drug classes or whatever you got to do. No, it really has turned in from a public safety mechanism to a revenue generator. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And if it's infecting their statecraft, then it's really a problem. But look, the train from downtown Fort Worth to where'd you say the airport, even if it wasn't stopped by drunk driving preferences, I still don't want it. I don't want any of these trains. I would make an exception that if we took an existing train track and we had a private company come and run their own train doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. Oh, I'd be for that. I'm not against the concept of passenger trains. I'm against the concept of government passenger trains, which is what all of them are. Why? Because it's such a bad idea, it can't exist even in the private sector. All right. Coming up next, details on the disparity in downtown crime between Dallas and Fort Worth. Downtown Dallas had a crime score 7 times higher than Fort Worth. I'll give you the numbers and my theories on that next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, there was a concerning article I found, DallasExpress.com. There was a study that was done by the Metroplex Civic and Business Association. And I got to tell you, I've liked some of their studies before, so I'm paying attention to these guys. Downtown Dallas, back in March, had a crime score that was 7 times higher than Fort Worth. In April, the crime in downtown Dallas was 11 times higher than Fort Worth. It was 7 times higher in May, and now has calmed down a little bit, but still god-awful. The crime in downtown Dallas, 5 times higher than Fort Worth. And you're thinking, well, Dallas is a bigger city. Duh, Parker. Yeah, but in the downtown area, there's about 10,000 folks that in Fort Worth, and there's about 15,000 in Dallas. So maybe it could be, 1.5 times as high. That would be within the ratio. That would be comparable. But, bro, we're at 5 times higher. It was 11 times higher in April. So what are we talking about here? Are you talking about jaywalking? No. When you talk about assault offenses, there were 69 assault offenses in Dallas. I know, it's just grow up, people. Versus 15 in Fort Worth in June. That's 5 times more. When it comes to theft offenses, there were 64 in Dallas, only 11 in Fort Worth. For drug violations, 18 in Dallas, 1 in Fort Worth. For car thefts, auto thefts, motor vehicle thefts, there were 24 cars stolen in downtown Dallas in June, only 4 in Fort Worth. Now, here's a couple of interesting ones. Number one, weapon law violations. In June, there were 5 in downtown Dallas, 0 in Fort Worth. And for prostitution offenses, 6 in Dallas, 0 in Fort Worth. That's a lot. That's significant. So let's theorize here. Why do we think that Fort Worth has such a better record when it comes to crime? Well, I mean, look, the easiest obvious one would be like, well, I guess Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth is filled with better people than downtown Dallas. It's like, ooh, James, it's kind of a touchy subject. I didn't mention anything about race or socioeconomic factors or immigration status or nationality or background or ethnicity or religion. I didn't say anything. I just said, obviously, we have a better group of people in downtown Fort Worth than downtown Dallas. Now, we need to stop being so sensitive and let our walls down and stop being so politically correct and ask, why is that? And then let me throw some ideas at you. Maybe Fort Worth actually enforces its vagrancy laws with a little more vigor than Dallas does. I was just in downtown Fort Worth, not this weekend, like 3 days ago, but last weekend, walking around. You know how many homeless people I saw? I think 2. If I go walk down in downtown Dallas tonight, there's going to be a lot more than that. But overall, let me ask you this. Which city is more red? Which city is more blue? Which city is a little more serious about their crime enforcement? Like, maybe Fort Worth isn't so loose with letting criminals out on bail or zero bail or cash bail or their own recognizance. Maybe when someone is convicted of a crime, maybe Fort Worth gives them longer sentences. Maybe Dallas is known by the criminals as a place where if you're going to commit crime, you'd much rather do it in Dallas than Fort Worth, so they come here. Maybe it has something to do with the policy positions that the voters of Fort Worth insist on that the voters in Dallas do not. I don't know. Maybe they just have better trains. What do I know? This is Bill in Decatur. You're on WBAP, Bill.
Yeah, I was calling in about the train.
Tell me about it.
I'm from California, where we have previously had a major train fiasco out there with the bullet train. These politicians don't only approve these trains because they're trying to steal money from the taxpayers. They hire contractors that build these trains, and they get kickbacks from these contractors, making themselves rich.
Oh yeah,
and that's possibly why they're pushing for this train so hard.
Oh, dude, that's for pretty much everything. Like when they say, "Well, we need to buy this office building and renovate it for offices." Well, no, you don't have a shortage of office space in Dallas City Hall, but you do get to hand out the contractors to the contracts to the contractors who are going to make millions of dollars off of this. Oh, we need to get this old theater. We need to go get the Forest Theater in Oak Cliff, and we don't need it to be sold to someone new outside of Dallas. We'll buy that and we'll renovate it ourselves. No, it's never about saving the theater. It's never about the train. It's never about the next road or whatever. It's about the kickbacks. You're absolutely right. Every dollar that we allow them to spend is just one more chance for corruption from our leaders. And look, the cities that are going to be ravaged by this, they kind of deserve it. That's the tough thing about democracy is you get the government you deserve. And, for bad voters, you're going to get the government you deserve good and hard.
I agree 100%.
Well, I'm glad that you called. Thank you, Bill Indicator. Good stuff. That's a good one to end on today. All right, I already know part of what we're going to do tomorrow. Can I go ahead and whet your appetite for that? Because I talked about the Ice Block app before. They actually flagged some ice activity at a Dallas Home Depot. And so now we have some real safety concerns here. That whole theoretical story that I was talking about a week or so ago, it's just come home. Look forward to that. Before I hand it over to Mark Levin, I just want you to remember, if you need some more James Show action in the meantime, or maybe you just got to catch the last 30 minutes of the show, we had 2.5 hours of just kicking butt for the show that if you missed it, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go put up the podcast. You can check it out, WBAP.com, WBAP app, or wherever you're already listening to podcasts on other platforms. I really prefer you use our platform, but if you go look it up there, I see about 50% of you still listen to it on our competitors' apps. Whatever, I'll take it. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.